Well, hello and welcome to that beautiful part of the day again. And what are we talking about? Fighting Galamsey. We're not going to stop talking about it. We're going to be resolute until such time it ends. But I tell you what, it is not going to be an easy battle, and it's not an easy battle because with every phase comes in different challenges. Chiefs, politicians, Chinese, more cheese, Chinese, and now sex tapes, even everything linking to Galamsey. Unemployment. BNI comes up with this comprehensive report, and every corner of Ghana, there's a chief or somebody, engaged in one form of mining or not. It is said that it is a means by which people want to create employment. But then you sit back and think, can we afford so many people, even legally, digging up and down the country saying that that's our means of living? Is it sustainable? Well, I don't know. But one interesting thing is that the security forces who are meant to stop these things are also somewhat protecting some of these things. But Dr. Henning was on the show a few weeks ago, and he said something which I think was prophetic. When I was calling for state of emergency, he says, Nana, scratch the surface first. Find out what's behind before you just jump out and say state of emergency. Could this be true? Some of these tapes and these people, high flyers who are linked, if we were to scratch the surface, will these things come out so that we can have a targeted fight? Either way, we have to fight. My name is Nana Ansakwa, the fourth, Akwemwe Dumasahene, and your host. I'm going to take a short pause. We'll listen to the minister in charge of all this, and then I'll come to the studio and introduce my guest. Don't go.
We are very weak in implementing the law. So it is the implementing agencies. I agree that when an illegality is happening and the police goes in to do the arrest, and maybe that is the end. I have a discussion and engaged the IGP. I even spoke with the IGP yesterday. Maybe you'll be hearing me. I made him understand clearly that in all these 9 mining districts that we've identified, something needs to happen. And I hope it's going to happen quite soon. So the enforcement with these agencies is very key. If the agencies are coming behind the commission, to show that there's some activity in terms of enforcement going on, that can also send signal that we are very sure and serious about what we're doing. And that's why I'm most grateful to the Justice Ministry for coming out with this 14 or 13 special courts. We expect the court to work, and maybe we're looking at the best to happen very soon. These are good indications to send signals that as a country, we should be moving somewhere. I heard today on the radio when I was driving down here, Joy FM, Raymond mentioning some areas that there were even police and military people. I mean, this is surprising. How can the military people be protecting an illegality?
This is close to the
and this is from a research he said he has gotten out confidential. I mean, so it means that as a country there is something wrong.
Report is a fallacy, completely false, because I started requesting for a mining license in 2010. And then on 10th June 2011, a notification was put all over the Talisi constituency. And mind you, by then I was not a member of parliament. It took me 4 years to be able to get the license in February, precisely 11th February 2014, and the license expires 2019. The concession is being worked on by my family members because I applied it on their behalf. So I have genuine license as a small-scale miner.
Is it possible that some of your family members are operating beyond the concession you've been given?
No. I haven't been there for almost 2 years. But I believe that they are not mining beyond the concession. Even they have stopped work for about a year now.
Why have you stopped operations for the last 1 year?
Because when I became a member of parliament, I realized I couldn't combine the two. And since the license was valid up to 2019, I couldn't have left the place fallow without putting people who are beneficiaries of the license to be working there.
So you maintain that you are not engaged in illegal mining, which is known as Galamsey?
Yes, and I have the documents. When I arrive in Accra, I'll produce it to your office and you'll look at it.
If the minister were to open a wide-scale investigation based on this report, are you open to making yourself available to debunk what?
Well, that was some of the excerpts of one from the minister, one from BT Baba. And he says he's no more involved in mining because he's now an MP. But with the BNI report, I'll just read little excerpts of it for you before I come to studio. Actually, let me introduce my guest and then I read the excerpts to you. Sitting right next to me is Nana Ajimai Bedu Sapong, member of Occupy Ghana. Nana, you're welcome.
Thank you. Is it? Nana Sapong Ajimai Bedu.
Nana Sapong Ajimai Bedu. Okay. Nana Sapong Ajimai Bedu. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Is your first time on the show?
Yeah.
I'm Bantamusa. It's a bottle of snap for me and my listeners.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Doc is free, Doc is being here. And Dr. Kosieni, security analyst, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll just read a couple of paragraphs. This is basically like the recommendation of their findings. And then it says 2. The directives given to illegal mining to stop mining activities within 3 weeks by John Peter Awenwu, the Minister of Lands, Natural Resources, which elapsed on 19th April 2017, received mixed reactions from a cross-section of the general public, notably illegal miners, residents of communities affected by the activities of mining, civil and public servants. 3. The Minister's directive receives commendation from residents of Galamsey affected communities and opinion leaders of these areas. They called for a concerted effort involving government and other stakeholders to eradicate the menace. They further called for intensified effort to flush out foreigners, particularly Chinese nationals, who were engaged in illegal mining activities. 4. Some opinion leaders in the Galamsey affected areas condemned the alleged involvement of some politicians, chiefs, and security personnel in illegal mining activities. They call on government to, as a matter of urgency, investigate these allegations and expose the culprit. They, however, caution that a complete ban on mining activities will exacerbate the problems of youth unemployment in the country. According to them, the government may consider providing jobs or alternative or livelihood sources to the teeming youth who will be redundant as a result of a ban on illegal mining activities, to prevent them from engaging in social vices such as prostitution and armed robbery. 7. I'm skipping 5 and 6. 7. In Bronga-Hafo region, some youth engaged in illegal mining activities argue that the minister's directive is not a sustainable measure in combating the menace. They further threaten to attack the concessions of the Newmont Gold Ghana Limited if the government dares to stop the activities. 8. Generally, the minister's directives were widely commended. The general public, though, illegal miners and their sponsors have kicked against it. The general public was also unanimous in condemning collusion and involvement of some chiefs, politicians, and security personnel. Meanwhile, checks conducted within the Volta and Greater Accra regions revealed that Illegal mining activities are non-existent in this area. It's 32 pages, and I bet you if you were to text me your village, I will tell you who is involved in illegal mining in your village. Trisoprafo, Manchia, Sibenso. I mean, it just goes on.
And
on.
How many towns are listed in this report?
Doc, every town is listed. Barikesi, Nkontomre, I mean, name it. If you can pronounce it, it's in there. Manso, Esamai, Kwakukrom, Dantano, Tontokrom, I mean, any page. Praboso, name it. Barikesi Airport area, you know. River Adongo, you know, Aboboy, Trifopraso, Pewodie, Bimponyaja, Bimponso, everywhere.
Can I suggest something? Probably next time, let's try to locate these towns on the map of Ghana, and then you place it on the screen. Because I think people don't seem to have an idea that this poses an existential threat to the state. An existential threat not in terms of the environmental degradation itself, but if you look at the multiplicity of people involved and the threats. And let me make this very clear before probably I allow you to ask us your questions. This is just the beginning. And this report raises more disturbing questions than it answers. And I'll repeat this. Until we get to the root and identify those who have funded this business, sold the rights of Ghanaian generations yet unborn for petty cash, and have threatened our very existence, this will not go away.
And even to add to what Doc said about the map, I mean, if anybody takes his phone and goes to Google Maps, and he just looks on the River Pra or River Ankobra, he should just trace it from the south, especially River Pra. It empties into the sea at Shama. You just look at the color of the sea at Shama, then trace it all the way to the top, to the source, and just look along the river and look at the sides.
While they continue to undertake their activity.
You can clearly see the sites on Google Maps. So just that one alone will just give you a fair idea, and they are not even in towns; they are on the river banks itself. So just you trace River Ankobra, you look on the river banks, you see the sites on it, and it's quite disheartening when you look at the color of the rivers, that they become brown. They look like footpaths. They don't resemble rivers anymore.
No.
The only one that looks like a river is the Volta River. All the others look like footpaths.
Ankobra, Pra, Ofen, Birim, Tano. I mean, some of them have turned black. But you see, Nana, I'm sorry today. It looks like we are
We've taken over.
You know, Nana, this thing raises loads of questions about our security management, about the manner in which we've applied Act 526, the Intelligence and Security Services Act, in which those who sit on the district security councils, on the municipal security councils, on the regional security councils, should be providing Accra with early warning signs of developments that can threaten our existence. So
Early warning signs.
Early warning signs. Okay? And developments. So it raises fundamental questions. Where was the BNI? I have been a great fan of BNI. I have defended them the last 4 years when everybody thought they were not doing what they ought to do. But I'm terribly disaffected and disappointed that it took a new president to say, we want our laws to work for the BNI to produce this report.
So this could have been done earlier.
20 years ago.
Where were they all this time? I mean, BNI has been in the country for a very long time, and it took them to 2017 to come up with a report now naming people.
And added to that, and that's why I'm asking you how many towns are named in this. And I think it's still the tip of the iceberg. They haven't given us the financiers. They haven't shown us a single photocopy of a supposed license, most of which are bogus. I think an intelligence report should give us names, bank account numbers, the transfers, when the transfers were made, who led who to get what license. So this is fairly shoddy work. At the KIPTC, if this was supposed to be a 10 paper, this is a C-.
I see.
This ought to be the beginning. And I'll say this. This is not just a small scale Ghanaian business. This is a multi-billion dollar business. And I think probably as the journalist, and I'm happy Occupy Ghana is here, we need a national conversation around this, in which we bring PMMC, and we actually try to find out what has been the increase or decrease in our output of gold since this business started. Because that then allows us to ask critical questions. Who are those who are buying this gold? How does it leave the country? Where is it stored? Who transports them? Because until we ask these questions and follow the money trail, we haven't started this business yet.
Doc, let me stay with you. I mean, at the moment, are we doing like a populist fight? What we're doing now, just to please, the average Joe?
No, I think His Excellency has made it very clear, the President, and I think his statement with respect to the Chinese, that we don't hate you, we're only implementing our laws.
Yeah.
So it seems as if the President is saying one thing, a drive to protect Ghana's interests, and people are desperate, scrambling to say, oh, let's seize the excavators, let's stop the mining, and then we have stopped it. And therein lies the danger. That those who are supposedly named in this report, which I haven't seen yet, but I'll definitely get a copy later on, not from you necessarily, are desperate to cover their tracks. And that is where the danger lies. Until we apply the law as the minister is saying, arrest people, use forensics, trace the money, hold them before a court of competent jurisdiction, and say, Kwiseni, look, you were a non-entity school teacher plus a scribbler. Over X number of years, we've seen ups and downs of financial transactions. And here, Iyoko must come in, SFO must come in, all the institutions of the state that can investigate and use their intelligence and coercive powers must save us. Otherwise, where do we go? The Ivorians are complaining. The Togolese are not particularly happy. Okay, it's only a matter of time before this escalates into a true existential threat. It's more than that. And I think both the minister and those that he speaks to must deliver some results. This report is totally unsatisfactory.
One of the things that keep coming up is that, look, total ban is no good, and therefore you need to find alternative work. We live in a country where the average youth, instead of learning to be a carpenter, was just an Okada. Something that he starts in the morning and by 12 o'clock is finished. Nobody wants to acquire skill, discipline, structure. No. It's either give me an Okada or something that's, let me drive a taxi. So what are we going to do with all these thousands of youth who now want a quick fix? They don't want to plant corn, wait for it to dry and take it off the husk.
It's basically this issue of Galamsey. We want to end it, but if you want to kill a tree, you have to kill it from the roots. And there are people who are promising these young guys heaven on earth with these activities, giving them so much money to do these things, that money that they wouldn't see in a month, they are getting in a day. So it will be difficult to try and move them from this current work that they are doing, because they are now going to have to forego all that money they make to start earning a good living. But I think one very important thing that, that the country should take seriously is education. And it all stems from good quality education. Because if somebody who has this, half-hearted education, someone in a school whereby they go to school the whole day, the teacher barely comes to class, they play every time. I mean, every time, most of the times when I travel outside Accra and I pass by any village school, I always see the kids outside playing. I don't recollect any time the children are in the classrooms with the teacher whenever I'm driving by. Every time the kids are outside playing. So it's like from the beginning, they become very idle. And the quality of education that we give them is not the best. So growing up, they feel that they should also do something that would also fetch them, good money. And unfortunately, our local, artisanal work, doesn't fetch so much because we do not put so much pride in it. We do not back with pride. So someone is called a carpenter and he doesn't feel it's, something very important. We don't put so much importance in some of the work they do. With agriculture, the returns they make is not the best. There isn't much support from government. So they tend to go into this illegal business. So it's something that we have to sit down very well and look at how best we can reabsorb all these guys, make them gain, some good living. And with us, we want to stop Galamsey. One of the ways one of the jobs you can create is the land reclamation, which can take years, to reclaim the land, whereby we can now engage these guys in the land reclamation.
But is there quick money in land reclamation? Because that's the whole idea.
And we should also actually make people understand that anything that you do that gives you quick money, you should know there's something wrong with it. Quick money is not honest money.
At which point do you train the person? When he's now used to quick money, or you're going to go back to groom him up to understand that quick money is no good?
That's why it's a very, very difficult task looking at it. If you're going to stop it outright without looking at some of these, the fallouts of the total ban on Galamsey, we have the ban and the fight against it should go on. But in doing that, we should start looking at ways and means of bringing these guys, onto the mainstream work, whereby they can be gainfully employed to do something meaningful. If it's with agriculture that we want them to go into, we should make agriculture look lucrative for them.
Let me bring Doc in here. And Doc, I'm trying to get the BNI report from C- to at least a C.
Good.
Now, this is why I say so. You take every area, and they've given, Dubois, the guy involved there is called Isaac. Narrowed down to Isaac. He's probably a non-entity, but at least he's got a name Isaac. Kinyago and Kingsley Jemfi and his guys are there. I think they've gone to an extent to bring us the area and
the people involved.
Isaac is not John Quarting.
Isaac is not a financier. Isaac, how did the excavators get into this country? And who cleared them from the port? Okay, so we've got to go back. Papa, before I start, Nanajiman's point about the land reclamation is good. And that is why we've got to tie chasing the money to the subsidiary activities as we clean the land, the rivers, and re-employ people, or retrain and re-employ people. Those who have milked this country and destroyed our future, we've got to find where the money is and seize those monies. Those monies should be used in the reclamation of the land, the cleansing of the water, and the retraining of the youth. This government money, not one cedi of government's money, must go into this business. Okay? So Yoko has a huge job in this. The banks must help us because we have the anti-money laundering laws that allows us to track the monies that come to people's accounts in a suspicious manner. We have what we call the KYC rules, know your customer rules. So Kwesenin cannot just over the last 3 years be putting X amount of money into his account. Okay, so the banks have been complicit in this. The KYC officers have failed. Yoko has not been up to speed. Okay? So there are multiplicity of institutional interventions that we need to put in place. Okay? So this report, as I said, is a very first step. Now, when I mark my students, I mark them not as an American professor, but as a UK professor. You know that in the UK, C- is fairly decent, you know, because probably if I was a US professor, that would be a B++. So, I mean, you know, but truly, we need to go more. Because the last time I came here, I told you that a couple of years ago, I mean, some of us, you know, traveled around, and we were given same names and fairly heavy names. You see, so Isaac and John and Mami Adjoa and Ejakofi doesn't mean anything. If you don't tell me Isaac is 39 years old, XYZF. Because you see, apart from, no, Isaac is not a kingpin. We know, because immigration is involved in this. When you travel Addis Ababa, Guangzhou, Addis Ababa, Accra, and that, you know, 787 Boeing is filled with 90% Chinese. They go through Accra airport much faster than you and I. So there is a certain mafia that allows this to go on. Okay? And I doubt very much if other state institutions who could possibly have facilitated either knowingly or unknowingly in getting this to go on have been named. So it's a useful first start, but I doubt very much were this to land on the president's desk, because the conclusions that you read and the recommendations are not useful. They don't touch the core and the heart of the matter. And I can assure you, without knowing the president's conclusions, that with the vim and vigor with which he's pushing Ghana's interest, this report's recommendations are not near what His Excellency the President is looking for.
Is it because we are... actually, let me take a quick break, but when I come back...
Yes, of course, you need to make some money.
I just want to find out if we are overwhelmed. Stay tuned. Carry back.
Over the last 3 months, during which the campaign against Galamsey has grown, one of the things that has contributed to illegal mining flourishing is the lack of enforcement by the security agencies. In some cases, there are allegations that police and military men provide armed protection for the Galamseyers. This has handicapped the Minerals Commission, whose CEO, Dr. Tony Obin, speaking at a forum against illegal mining, read out a letter to the security agencies informing them of the need to respond quickly to the growing threat of Galamsey.
The office wishes to, and this is coming from the district chief executive of that district, the office wishes to accordingly remind you of the Municipal Security Council's directive in connection with same subject, for you to furnish it with the names of the leaders of the groups operating in the affected area for further action. So you write to us that we should go and ask the names of people doing the illegal mining. If it is Shuanghu, we should write Shuanghu, and then Shahuai, and then we'll write, or Kofi Ejekum, we should write. And I mean, look at that. When we have written to say, take a practical security action.
For Lance Minister John Peter Amewu, enforcement of the law is not negotiable, and he wants the IGP to take charge.
We are
this particular Chinese woman, I have it on record, was arrested 3 times during the previous administration. 3 times she was released. She's a very powerful woman. Operates more within the Ashanti region, especially Kumasi. She's got connections from my own checks also in this administration. She's got her agents placed in state institutions, particularly the security agencies. And she's able to wriggle herself out of danger or trouble anytime she's touched. And she's got accomplices. The other one is called Monica. The other one, the name has slipped me because it's a Chinese name I can't pronounce. But they are powerful. Part of their strength is that they built up a certain system of blackmailing. They have video and audio recordings of their conversations with some strategically placed persons from then and now, and some they are having sex with, or they have girls, some mainly Chinese, who they brought into town, who sleep with these big men or big guys well placed. And they have them, and they use it to blackmail our big men into submission.
Well, thank you very much for staying, but my question just before we go to the break is, are we overwhelmed? Here we are with even blackmail. Doc, are we overwhelmed?
No, we are not. It's just...
You're very optimistic.
Yes, it's just incompetence and lack of oversight and an unwillingness by those who should wield the stick to wielding the stick.
Doc, those who
you see, there are multiple failures. In the last couple of years, I've been intimidated, threatened. I've been called, the most favorite title I've been given is the ambassador of the Fulanis. The Fulani crisis ought not to be a crisis in this country. Once more, DISEC has failed, REGSEC has failed, MUSEC has failed, MISEC has failed. Because those who sit on those security councils across this country, about 60 to 70% of them have not even read the law that enjoins them to sit on those councils. Now, if you don't know the law, how do you know that you have to play an early warning role by picking sensitive information that can pose an existential threat to us? So we are seeing the Fulani or the herdsmen crisis being replicated in the Galamsey. We see it in the theft of hardwood. We see it in the depletion by the same Chinese, Spanish, and Portuguese vessels of our fisheries through patrolling and the usage of wrong nets. So we ask ourselves, where are those who are paid and pampered by the state of Ghana with, a friend of mine called me from the US and said, Kwesi, what is this thing called V8? And I explained to you what it was. They say, oh, so it's only a vehicle? So those who are pampered by the state with my taxpayers' money, free electricity, water, driver, bodyguard, guard carrying speeches, motorcade, who are failed to protect the ordinary people. So it is not a matter of being overwhelmed. When the state apparatus fails or refuses to function, it is a deliberate, manipulative, exploitative set of mechanisms and processes by networked individuals in powerful positions who want to exploit those positions for their pecuniary, either individual or group benefits. So we ought not to be overwhelmed at all. Far from it. And I can assure you, let this report be summarized and land on the president's desk, and I'm sure the president will say a couple of things about his displeasure of the quality of this report. And I think we need to ask a couple of very tough questions. Who are those who are members of these networks in fishing, Because you see, the farmer header crisis that we see in this country is partially related to the same dynamics underpinning Galamsey, underpinning fishing, the theft of hardwood, and money laundering in this country. Okay, so I don't think the figures or the numbers involved are that huge. But we've just got to stiffen the spine of those who need to do the investigation and scratch the surface to get their job done. And as the minister is promising, to use the law.
I mean, could it be that the cronies involved, are too close to those who have to crack the whip that it becomes, very difficult to crack the whip because you step out there and there's a, prominent politician or prominent chief or prominent colleague, and you're thinking, look, I can't just bring you down.
Yeah, of course. I mean, last I think a few weeks back, I spoke to one former DC from the Dentra areas. And he was in the former administration, and he tried his best. I think he was able to seize about 50 excavators. But before he realized one day, security personnel came to plant money in his office to make it look like he has gone to take a bribe. And then we're trying to charge him, for taking a bribe for some other thing. Knowing very well that what he was doing was hurting these security guys, their source of, illegal revenue. So these people are involved. And I think 3 years ago, one of the Ghana Water headworks started complaining about, people mining very close to the intake point. I think it's
no, they have videos.
The OEB.
I've watched
I think it's the OEB. Not OEB. It's in Ashanti region. And I was asking myself, and they were complaining, it was in the media. And I was asking myself, are there no district police commanders in this area? Are they not hearing that these people are Ghana Water is complaining? Ghana Water facilities are national installations. They are very key installations. I mean, if I go there and I go pour just a few drops of poison in their intake and they process it and they spread it to so many people, can you imagine the problem? And they started complaining as far back as about 3-4 years ago. And I was asking myself, are they not hearing that Ghana Water Company is complaining about a national installation being attacked by Galamsey operatives? And till now, they've done nothing about it. So you ask, where are district police commanders? What are they doing? Where are the immigration district commander chiefs? What are they? I mean, it's like the security agencies are not even cooperating.
And that's where I think the Intelligence and Security Services Act 526 of 1996 must come in. At every district, at every municipal council, a metropolitan council, and the regional councils, there are these security councils that police, BNI, immigration, customs, whatever.
Everything is there.
They all sit there and advise the political chief. So if we have all this multiplicity of state agencies advising the political chief, and they don't know the basic facts about levels of pollution, small arms flows, then there's a fundamental crisis of security management in this country. And that is why we shouldn't be too happy about this BNI report. Because the question is, why did it take so long? Now, if the BNI wants to tell us, oh, well, we couldn't write the report because of political interference, that raises even more disturbing questions.
But, Prof,
yes,
you just sort of like going into my next question, which is, if all security heads are going to be politically appointed, then you have tied, you're sort of tying all security heads. Because if I were the president and I appoint you as IGP, and my brother here is my biological brother and he's digging up circle, you can't go and arrest him. Your retirement and every package depends on me. So if we are going to make all political heads security based, Can we get that 100% security that you preach or you lecture?
When did this change? When did the political class start meddling in the appointments of top security or top securocrats? And I think there are two quite instructive cases in point. When we won independence, the chief of the defense staff was a British man, General Alexander. He wouldn't take instructions from Dr. Nkrumah. Of course, eventually Dr. Nkrumah had to sack him. The second case relates to Mr. Osei-Bonsu, who advised the Prime Minister then, Mr. Dr. Buzia, to appoint another person to the position that Dr. Buzia thought Achampong was his ethnic affinity, and therefore Achampong will be more loyal. And of course, we know the rest is history. But General Edward Malfo has written a world-class book. General Edward Malfo was the head of military intelligence for several years. And both Brigadier General Edward Malfo and Mr. Kwanson, who probably is the guru of all security gurus in this country, these two gentlemen, securocrats, have complained and lamented about the undermining of the professional ethos of the security agencies because of undue political, meddling. So whilst, of course, we can be fairly critical of the effectiveness or otherwise of the securocratic agencies, I think we can let the political class also off the hook. And it is this consistent meddling, constantly, that has really undermined the professional culture of these institutions to such an extent that earlier on, probably it was only the CDS and one or two other people who were appointed by government. That was legitimate because you wanted to be sure that your best and your brightest and the most loyal served around you. But now it trickles down.
Even nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
I can never get my head around it. When it rains and you get flooded, the person who brings you blanket, that has to be politically
precisely. So that tells you the extent to which even writing this report, that I can suspect the kind of to and froing for us to get this C-. Okay, and that relates partially to the levels and the willingness by these guys to do the assessments before we appear before, say, the Parliamentary Vetting Committee. Well, they have to assess all of us before you get to a certain sensitive job. Okay, but everybody is afraid. And therefore, there's a British drag king who came here and got a passport, blah, 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 you remember? The former governor's son. Okay, I don't blame the governor, because a nice man comes to your house and comes to chase your daughter, why not? But those who assessed him and gave him a Ghanaian passport, nobody was sacked. Okay, so it is this fear, as you correctly put it, Nana. Now look, hey, my children are still going to school. I haven't finished my house. So if Nana, that's wrong, let me write a small and give it to you. Until we stop that process of meddling, and that threatens people's professional jobs and their career security. Then we'll have the Galamseys and the herdsmen crisis and the hardwood theft and the money laundering and the overfishing of our waters, because everybody's afraid to write.
And even
because you're civil, I mean, it's civil society that develops countries. These politicians, they will chase votes. Wherever they vote, if we tell them that we want to fly today, we'll vote for them, they will buy us wings tomorrow. So you and I, civil society, now need to champion the cause as to where it is we want the country to go, and they'll take us. So is it that we are not making the noises loud enough? So what parts do we have to play in going forward?
Yeah, in civil society, since we don't have the power and the authority to give the orders, we can actually still keep on making the noise to the one person that we all look up to, that we've all vested our powers into, and that's the president. And in this fight, it's all about the leadership. If the leader is not going to be strong enough to put his foot down, we wouldn't get anywhere with all the noise we're making. So with what we've seen so far, with so many people, bodies coming together, putting their voices together, we've got the Christians, we've got the Muslims, we've got some chiefs, we've got the media, and many civil societies coming together. I think it's a good thing that we should keep, we shouldn't let this momentum die. We should even build it further and make much loud noise about this whole thing. Get people to understand that there are so many people out there who are against Galamsey. Because when I think previous administrations, when they tried to do it, those involved were the loudest. And those of us who were not happy about it were quiet. So those people were able to get to the politicians, to threaten them with votes and the like. So the politicians decided to also back away. But we should also now start raising our voices louder, gets louder than these Galamsey, because this money is going to the pockets of very few people. When these Asian Hua and these people are doing their illegal mining and selling the gold, I don't get any. The country doesn't get any by way of royalties or taxes. Everything goes to wherever it goes. So if I'm not going to benefit from, if you're not going to benefit legally by this enterprise, we shouldn't see why we should keep quiet to allow this thing to keep going. So as civil society, we should not let this fire die down. It shouldn't be like this 9-day wonder of the usual 9-day wonder of Ghanaians where we go like, we scream for a few months or a few weeks and then we all go back to sleep. We should keep piling the pressure on government. I mean, we get calls from people in some of these areas. I think last week someone called for Wasai Kupon and told me that the Chinese people are back there mining in the night. They started doing this thing in the night. And we all have to be watchers. We have to be watchmen everywhere we are, wherever we find ourselves. We have to keep making so much noise so that the police, because right now we are hearing that now the security agents are now deploying men to various parts of the Ashanti region to fight it. Why wasn't it done before? Because we're not pushing them hard enough. Now we have to keep pushing them very hard, make them be aware that we are watching them very closely. And if they are not going to do it, we'll make them very unpopular. And that should be done with especially the political leaders. We should mention their names. Their names should come out that this man is involved and push the presidents to get the security agents to arrest whoever who is in his party or not in his party, whether his friend or his brother or anything, to get these people to book, get them to be prosecuted according to the law, and whatever that the law prescribes should be done to them.
Let me ask you an unfair question.
Yes, please. You're always unfair to me, and you haven't invited me to your kingdom yet.
You see now, you have to. You see, we've all gathered behind, and we're chasing Galamsey menace. Assuming in a year's time we succeed. I'm always asking this question: is there anything that will bring us together again, and then we all decide that okay, from Galamsey now we are going to, let's say, teenage pregnancy and development of slums, because that's also another menace. Because maybe the other media houses will say, well, we're not passionate about that. And if we all don't come together, it doesn't raise steam. So I just keep asking, what will be next, and how will we all rally round to pick one topic again and say, look, you go, sanitation is going to kill us, so go and fix it. How do we do it?
Well, I think the way we do it relates to your earlier question to Nanajima. Who are civil societies? Civil societies are networks of epistemic communities with technocratic specialized knowledge in specific areas. So I don't think the struggle should be a one theme or one topic struggle. It should be a hydra-headed struggle in which we as civil society focus in our specific areas. Okay? And let's say Honorable Amewu has just told us that, look, the police is not being very effective. But because we know that there is a conspiracy to double-cross the state of Ghana, we need people like Nanajiman who have contacts to do solid, small think pieces that will go behind the Isaacs of the BNI report. Because the BNI officers who are writing this, if they are fairly junior officers, are afraid of their positions 10, 12 years from now. Okay, but those of us on the civil society front can, with our superior technocratic analytical skills, present these papers, and with friends like you in the media, blow it out. Because Kweku Bakun has become Kweku Bakun because he has the documents and he has the facts. And Aisha has been arrested because of what he said on Saturday. So facts do matter, individuals do matter, institutions do matter. So my suggestion is really that we've allowed institutions to fail over time.
To round up.
Yes, sir. So we need civil society people doing the environment. Because look, the Kwesi Lagoon, when I was a kid, was filled with gold tilapia that the Fantis will use for sealed baking. Now that tilapia, if you eat it right now in the Kwesi Lagoon, I'm sure you go to Kolebu double quick. You get? So let's mobilize, but that mobilization must be predicated on solid, empirical, provable facts. And let's confront those.
All too soon, that's what time would allow us, with Galamsey issues, I'm telling you, we can talk till 6 a.m. and it's still in the boring for me, one subject after the other. But I keep asking that after we fight Galamsey, when do we all come together again and what do we pick up to fight? But either way, no matter how difficult this is, our part of history should not be this. We should not be the ones in history who destroy the environment. It's a very ugly chapter that we are writing in our part of history, and we need to have a new story. So Christian Council's pledge or warning or plea to the president was that make the brim drinkable in your time. Make brim drinkable in your time. And I think that's fair. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To you at home, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.